What's up, everybody? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me once again. So there was some big news a few days ago, or maybe even a week ago, as by the time this video comes out. But the big news was that the Criterion Collection announced that they were partnering with Disney, and Wall-E was coming to the Criterion Collection. So a lot of YouTubers went out and made videos about what does this mean for the collection. Are we going to start seeing more Disney and Pixar movies in the collection? And that might be the case, but I wanted to focus on something just a little bit different, because for a while it's been a topic of how come there aren't more animated movies in the collection. I think this could open up the way for animated movies. So I've come up with 5 titles that I think can definitely fit the Criterion Collection. I decided to stay away from Disney movies because that relationship is there. So yes, we might see some Disney Pixar movies. We could see, other than Wall-E, you could see Finding Nemo show up. You could see Inside Out for sure could show up, and possibly even a box set for the Toy Story movies, and that would be fantastic, and I would definitely probably get all of those. But I wanted to stay away from that because that relationship is already there. Also stayed away from Studio Ghibli, I'm not sure how you say that, the Japanese animation company, because they're distributed by Disney in the US, if I'm not mistaken. So again, that relationship already being there, and for Studio Ghibli, a lot of those movies would definitely fit in with what Criterion does. So I decided to stay away from those movies, except for one that's presented by Studio Ghibli. It's not actually made by them, but they did present it and distribute it, and that movie is called The Red Turtle. So if you're not familiar with The Red Turtle, it came out in I think 2016, and it follows a man who just wakes up on a deserted island. He tries to make a sailboat, tries to make a boat and sail away out of the bamboo that's on the island, because there's plenty of it, and there's some mysterious monster who basically destroys the boat. He gets back on the island and then has to figure out life from that point forward. Being he's the only guy in the movie for a large part of the movie, it's almost a silent movie. I mean, it's not silent. There is sound, but there is hardly any dialogue. At least I'm not even sure if there's dialogue later on, because it's been a few years since I've seen it. But there's very little of it, if there is. A really good movie. I believe it was up for an Oscar. Didn't win, and I didn't expect it to, because it's just kind of too small a movie to win that particular award, the best animated feature. But it is a great movie that would fit in very well with what Criterion does. Not a kids movie. Matter of fact, none of the movies I'm going to suggest here are actually kids movies. The next one I'm going to suggest is probably my favorite animated movie of all time, or at least one of my favorite animated movies of all time, and that one is Mary and Max. Mary and Max is it might be the closest to a kids movie, but it's not really. Mary is a little girl growing up in Australia, and she's kind of a social outcast. We meet her when she's a little girl. I think she's like 8, and she decides, in the 70s by the way, so she decides to get a pen pal. I think her class has to get pen pals, and she decides to write to someone in New York. She pulls out a phone book, or pulls out some information, guys. She might have her hands on a phone book, but anyway, she comes across the name Max. He has his last name, I forget, so she decides to write him a letter, sends it across the globe to New York, where Max lives. Max gets the letter, and the two start a friendship through their back and forth correspondence through these letters over the next 20 plus years. Max lives alone in New York, but he's definitely on the spectrum, and we get to meet him and get to know all his idiosyncrasies, and we get to do the same thing with Mary and the bond that they share just through the correspondence. It's a great movie, and if you talk to people, some people, they'll say that it is the best movie ever made about autism. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it is a favorite of mine. I would love to see this movie come to the Criterion Collection and get a bigger audience. Some people have seen it. Everybody that I've seen it, everybody that I know that has seen it, really loves the movie. It is a phenomenal one. So I highly recommend that one to come to the Criterion Collection. And the next one is a animated documentary. This one's called Waltz with Bashir. It is about an Israeli soldier, and it's actually directed by this person, Ari Folman, I believe is his name. And he directs it about his experience in fighting in the Lebanon War of 1982, and he's dealing with memory loss, and he's having a really hard time in life. And this movie, it is a documentary, but it is animated, so there's also some kind of fantastical elements to it, and you can see in vivid detail the things that he describes. It is a harrowing kind of movie because it is a war movie on top of that, but it is all animated. So despite that, it is definitely one that would fit in with Criterion. It is a thought-provoking documentary. Next is the last two movies are actually movies that I have, but they don't have. But of course, they will fit better with Criterion. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So this first one is Anomalisa. So Anomalisa, this another movie, came out a few years ago, and this guy right here on the cover, he's a well-known author, and he's on a little bit of a book tour. He's going from city to city, doing book signings, trying to promote his work. And in his regular everyday life, he's been stuck in a routine marriage where he's getting a little bored, not sure if he wants to get out of the marriage. He feels like he's stuck in a rut. Basically, he's going through a midlife crisis, and lo and behold, he meets a woman who fancies him at one of his stops. So, and then the movie really digs into what goes on between the two of them and what's going on with the rest of his life. So really good movie here. If you haven't seen it, even though it's not on Criterion yet, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. It's not a kiddie cartoon, so definitely don't show the kids. So this is like I said, this is about a man going through a midlife crisis. And finally, I said that Mary Max was the closest to a kids movie. This might be the closest to a kids movie because it is just about it's a more of a coming of age story than any of the other movies here. And that one is Persepolis. Persepolis is a phenomenal movie. The young lady right here, she is Iranian girl, and she's growing up during the Iranian Revolution. I think that's in the 80s also, and this movie follows her on her personal journey, and it's an exceptional movie. It won a lot of high praise. I think this was up for Oscar also. Yeah, 2007 Academy Award nominee for Best Animated Feature. Did not win. Probably should have. It was one of my favorite animated movies. Again, not really a kids movie, but this one, depending on the age of the kids, if they're tweens and up, they can probably certainly handle this movie. Check it out if you haven't, and crossing my fingers anyway, that it comes to the Criterion Collection. There's lots of other animated movies that could fit, but I just figured I'd stick with 5 for now. Let me know if you know of any movies that would fit the Criterion Collection, and yeah, even if they are Pixar or Studio Ghibli, I would welcome those additions. I hope you guys do too. That's all I have for you on this one. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.